What up? You know what it do? We back again. Roundtable Podcast. We in the building. It's another great episode. Yo, this one today, man, is special. You know what I mean? We got a real special treat. We got somebody that's very excuse my language, man. My bad, y'all. Something that's very monumental to our neighborhood and our community, man. He got so many hats. I don't know what hat to put on him first, but I'm going to put on the respectful hat, the husband, the father, the mentor, the coach, the homie, the friend, the brother. Mr. Fulton, Lucas himself is in the building, y'all. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Glad to be up here. Appreciate you for reaching out, man, and giving me the opportunity to get on the platform and really discuss, topics that need to be discussed.
Yeah, man. And it's a blessing, man, to have you here, man. What you're doing in the community is wonderful, brother. I salute you for that.
Appreciate it.
When I start off the show, I ain't gonna try to give everybody their flowers and their props, and that's why you up here once again. Because of what you're doing, who you are, and what you stand on, and what you stand for. And ain't too many of us out here that's even on that type of time, too. And I appreciate that, man, from me to you, man. I really admire that, man. I'm a big fan of you and your family. So, you know what I mean, as we get ready to lock in, man, I gotta ask, man, how did you do it, man? How did you manage to be the husband, the father, the coach, the mentor, and still be Fulton?
First thing, I got a great wife at home. She holds it down when I'm doing my thing, because a lot of times when I leave for football, I'm out of the house for a good amount of hours. So she holds down the household, she holds down the kids if I don't bring them with me. And then on top of that, we got another one on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, she does her thing to make sure that at home is taken care of when I'm not there. And then, football is a part of me, so it comes natural being myself when I'm around the kids. It was a big part of my upbringing, especially being around the type of men that was, moving the program forward. You had men who were good fathers. You had men who were athletes who could have possibly went to the NFL, who was working in the community, doing positive things. And I'm a reflection of the things that they showed us at that age that I'm trying to give back to my community, because somebody looked out for you when you were younger, so it's now your turn to return the favor. Right.
And you know what? That's real, because it's funny. I played for the same organization. Mr. Majors, R.I.P. him and Coach Herring, they were like our second fathers. And I had a full-time dad. But on that field, for those practice days and on Sunday, they were our father. I mean, they talked shit to us. They got in the ass. They told us, if we caught attitudes, you can get the fuck out of here. We don't care. We don't need you. Like, they never was like, it was never a pacified situation in my era growing up. You know what I mean? And to see the next generation, then the next generation, then to have you here, that's a blessing, man, because I know what that program meant for me personally as a kid growing up that loved to play sports. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, wow, look at us now. Time repeats itself. But
it definitely does. The game don't change. It's just the players who play it.
Of course, all day. You know what I mean? And it's good that what you took from that, now you're bringing to this generation. You know what I mean? And that's rare, because a lot of brothers ain't really want to even waste the time or even have the effort with a full-time family, because now like yours is older, you have little ones too that need, that need that attention, because it never stops. You know what I'm saying? Then you're going out here to the field to teach some other ones. Like, man, that's a lot of patience, brother.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie though. Coaching actually helped me become a better father. When I first started out coaching, I didn't really have no direction in life, and if you knew me, you really knew what I was out here doing. You know what I'm saying? I was getting in trouble constantly, and coaching football kind of helped me turn my life around, because it was like, how you gonna be out here working with these kids if you not right?
Right.
And then over the course of time, I started working with the kids, and I started to learn how to work with kids and also be a father figure and a mentor to them. Right. So when I had my own kids, it was just a natural habit that I already had learned. A lot of these kids, man, I look at them like my little brothers.
Right.
And that's how I look at my kids. But, at the same time, little brother, big brother relationship, somebody got to be the disciplinarian. So that we
Exactly.
can laugh, joke, but when it's time to get serious, it's time to get serious. And a lot of times, the kids respect me more than they may have respected their actual fathers or their older brothers, because I've been there at times where, they've gone through something and their father or their brother didn't know how to handle it, but I've experienced it, so I know how to handle it with them, So I'm thankful for the program because it helped me become a man to where I can take better care of my family and be a good father figure to my kids.
Wow, that's special. You know what I mean? Because honestly speaking, I didn't even see that. I'm gonna be straight up with you. That's a gem because I didn't really see that. What the program did for you, it took you to next levels in your own personal life. And you know what makes it special is that you were willing. You took the chance because, like you said, you went in there blind.
Yeah, most
And
definitely.
you can't be the blind leading the blind, especially not kids. You know what I'm saying? But how does that dwell on you as a man, like your patience? Because now it's like you're in the community still. You're helping these younger kids. But at the same time, you might get the phone call. And you out and about. And it's, sometimes, coach, it's, it's like, does it ever turn off? You know what I mean? Is there ever a moment where, okay, I'm not coaching today, even though you literally are still coach, if you understand where I'm coming from?
Nah, it's a year-round thing. I think one of the hardest moments that I actually had to deal with was a couple of years ago. A kid who just moved up from my age group passed away.
Right.
And the day he passed away, his mother actually called me while they were in the hospital and asked me to come to the hospital. And this was before a lot of people even knew the kid passed away. And, I actually was in the hospital room with him, while he was unfortunately deceased, and I saw his body, and that was something that really weighed on me because it's like, damn, I watched this kid from 6, 7 years old to 11, 12, and that was like watching my little brother or, watching one of my kids. And unfortunately, as a coach, you always got to have that hat on, no matter what, even out of season, because when football's over, them kids still got to live a life.
Right.
They still need guidance. They still need somebody to be on their back. It was when I first started out, we were allowed to go into the schools and talk to the teachers and pull the kids out of school and make sure that they had their head on right and they was doing what they had to do. And if they wasn't doing what they were supposed to do, then we had the opportunity to sit them down, talk to them, and, get them refocused. And teachers would contact us back and forth.
Right.
Unfortunately, because of certain parents, I guess, being offended or maybe even embarrassed about their child's behavior and having to have another adult come in and interact with them, they kind of stood against it. And the school is going to go with the parents before they go with the, with the mentors or the coaches. So it was definitely a hard time.
Wow.
But yeah, coaching is a 24/7 thing, man. I see my kids now, and I hear stuff about them that they doing out here, and I'll pull them to the side, and we're gonna have a man-to-man talk.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not just your coach. I'm your family, whether we blood related or not.
Right.
You came through my program. That's like you, my blood.
Right.
I partially raised you.
You did. You know what I mean? It's funny, you just touched on something that I wasn't aware of because talking about some of the parents got offended by y'all, you know what I mean? The school calling y'all because when I was in the program, our teachers called Coach Majors.
Yeah.
He came. So they was like, we're going to call Coach Majors because we know if we take something away from you that you're loving, you're going to get your shit. That's how they looked at it. And my parents would never offended by that. It wasn't like, yo, why is he coming? Like, do you think that's the generation now? Because I come from an old school parent. You know what I mean? My parents is in their 80s right now. So I grew up in the era where your neighbor slapped the shit out of you. And your neighbor grabbed you up. You know what I mean? Your neighbor told on you. Your neighbor, like, no, you going home. I'm taking you to your mother. Now that the coach is not allowed because the parents are offended, like, that's another, it's like a support team. Like it said, it take a village to raise a child.
Yeah,
So
I think
that's kind of like, that's a little mind-boggling to me.
I think one of the things that definitely changed was the generation. But also, when you look at Englewood, a lot of the people who are moving into Englewood are not from Englewood.
Okay.
They building all these high-rise buildings and bringing all these out-of-town people in. So you don't have that that tight-knit family feel that we used to have.
Okay.
Like when I was a kid, you'd be on the Ave cursing and somebody'd be like, oh, you Christine's son, or Lucas is your father. Yeah, go home. I'm about to call your parents. I remember I was like 8 years old. Me and my friend, we stole something out the store. And I don't know how, but my parents found out. It might have been like 10 o'clock, and they was like, yo, come in here. You stealing? And I'm like, stealing? What you talking about? I ain't stealing nothing. Where that car at?
Punch
Like,
drunk.
wow. Like,
Right, you
how
punch
you know
drunk.
about that? But it just shows you that, you know, the old school, everybody's your family, it takes a community to raise a child feel is starting to go away. And, you know, that's a big part of the issue that we have now is because so many kids are shying away from football.
Why
You know?
why is that?
I mean, you don't really know. I feel like it's because a lot of kids have more say-so in their households now than what they used to. You know, when I was a kid, there wasn't no, oh, do you want to play football? You're going to play football. And you're going to play football from C team all the way up to A team. Now, when you get to high school, if you don't want to play, that's on you. But this is what you're going to do because you're in my house and I'm making you. You know, I had a parent bring a kid out this year, and he was like, oh, yeah, you know, just give it a try, see if you like it. And the kid was like, no. And I'm like, damn, like, I've never seen a parent bring a kid out to football and he tell the parent that he's not going to do it. Because it never works like that.
Did he look like an athlete?
I mean, at that age, you know, some kids, they look athletic, some kids don't. But you never know because it's all about mentality. You know, a kid who could look unathletic might be the best player you ever seen.
Right.
Because at that age, you know, nobody can really tell you what an athlete looks like because they all tall and lanky, short
Right.
and
They
fat.
don't even know what their skill set is at the time until they get to training.
Yeah, some of my best players, you know, a couple kids, when they came to me, they was short, chubby. They didn't look athletic, but when you put them on the field, like they flipped that switch. And it was like, yo, he's the best player on the field, but he's the smallest. He's the most undersized, but he got the biggest heart.
Right. And that's what y'all look for, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because a lot of kids don't have it at that age.
Nah, they don't even know how to get it. And I think that's the difference in the era and the time because when I played football, it was like, yo, we wanted to play. That's how I grew up. Yo, I want to play. It's not like my parents were like, yo, you're going to play. Yo, we want to play. And especially for me personally, my parents went to church on Sundays. So that was my way out of going to church. I mean, I'm going to keep it real. Don't get it wrong. I love the game. You know what I mean? But football, you know, that was, you know, Mr. Majors, like I said, was my second dad. You know what I mean? So, with all that being said, these kids are coming out here, you know, saying, nah, I don't want to play. I mean, I don't want to, like, I don't even, you know, that's clueless to me because I get it. You know, video games take over. I got kids, they in the house all night banging out on the game. I'm like, yo, you want to watch the basketball game? Nah, I'm good. I'm on these games, so I get it, man. But how does it feel, man, with you getting these kids, you're teaching them, you're training them, they do great, but now they got an opportunity to go to different high schools and not stay here. Is that does that bother you somewhat, or is it like, you know what, okay, you know, fly on, you know, but I'm proud. I'm still a proud dad. If you know what I mean, I'm still proud because you're moving on, you're getting the skill set, and I know what I taught you is gonna take you to the next level. But it's like, damn, you also not here in our community on the same field that we used to play on that I would think you would want to play on in high school.
Yeah, you know, I support the kids regardless of where they go.
Okay. That's
you know, because a lot of times it's not really their decision where they go to high school. Sometimes their parents just don't want them to go to Englewood school systems. And you know, it's an issue with the city because a lot of things go on that, you know, we don't really know. And it's not because it's hidden from us, we're not going to find out.
Right. Wow.
You know, and
that's real.
A lot of parents, they see it as the Englewood school system isn't good because they're looking from outside in. But when you actually go inside of it and see what's going on, you see the teachers, and you get to meet these people, you realize it's just somebody, you know, spreading hearsay.
Okay.
So, you know, a lot of kids, they don't understand when they go to these parochial schools, like they're getting good players in every year. So, current example, I know that I coach this kid. He has an older brother, goes to St. Peter's Prep. He's 6'6", 15 years old.
6'6" and 15?
6'6", 15 years old. Hasn't played any football. He's on the varsity, but he doesn't really play. Now, I was talking to his dad. I'm like, get your son in the academies. Great school system. They send their kids on to get, amazing educations. But he'll go to Dwight Mall and he'll play right away. So now, it's his junior year about to be. He has no real varsity film. And he says he's going to start next year, but who guaranteed that? So now if you go there and you sit your junior year, now all you have is your senior year. And your junior year is maybe the biggest year because that's when colleges actually get to know you if you haven't been playing. So now they evaluate that junior film, and then they look at you going into your senior year. Like, okay, well, we like him, so let's see what he does senior year. And a lot of times, your junior year is the year that gets you the offers.
Yeah, I know that personally because it happened with, with my son. I learned that through, working with him on that, seeing like, wow, I didn't know, these are the most, I'm thinking, listen, I don't know. I'm just a father and he's doing his thing, but it's like, yo, so the coach, like, these are the most pressing moments.
Yeah, but I think one thing, as a community for Englewood, we got to get into City Hall and really be in these meetings where they talking about stuff behind closed doors, because they have the public meetings, then they have the private meetings.
Right.
Now, if we avoiding the public meetings, we have no idea what's going on in the private meetings. So now, like a town like Teaneck, years ago, they were talking about bringing a McDonald's into Teaneck. The town came together and stopped that because they only want certain types of food in their town because it's quality over money.
Exactly.
And I think that's the thing that Englewood is failing to do because I was able to sit down during a conversation where they were talking about bringing the rec center to Englewood. Teaneck has a rec center. Hackensack has the YMCA. And the conversation was, we'll give you guys the old DMV. But that DMV has been, that section has been out of use for 10 plus years. So how do we know the piping is good? How do we know the water is not poison? How about you give us Liberty School that was recently in use? Now it's just, you guys are about to sell it off if you haven't sold it off already. And they were trying to avoid giving us a building that already had a foundation that was already recently in use. Okay, so if you can't give us that, how about you build on McKay Park Pool? You have a pool, you have a skating rink, and you got a nice piece of property in front of that. You can build in front of that or you can build on top of the pool. Because now think if, these kids had somewhere to go after school. Well, after football season, there's no real programs.
So it's no basketball? There's no recreation basketball?
Yeah, but everybody's not playing basketball. You can only get 10 kids on a team.
Yeah, that's true.
So now, what about the kids who want to focus on football year round?
They don't have nowhere to work out. They don't have nowhere to go to, the exercise equipment. They just kind of, because they can't really get to a gym because they're kids.
Yeah, so if we were able to get the community to come together and really push for certain things, education, rec centers, then the town would be more appealing. The high school would be more appealing. And even with the academies, that's a great school, but we got to use that as a tool to get these parents to send their kids to these schools. Because we were at a game a couple weeks ago, and the referee had just did our high school game. And he was like, yo, do you know the kid number 5 from the high school? He said he's one of the best players I've seen all year. Because we have the skill. We always have the players.
Always. Englewood has so much talent. It's outrageous.
Now, this is where the men in our community come in. We got to be the landlords of the kids. When you see them out on them corners hanging out, hey, what are you doing over here? Nah, this ain't a place for you. And that's how it used to be when we was kids. Like the older kids growing up, when I was in rec, you had guys like B. Walk, who was one of the best athletes coming out of Englewood. You never seen him hanging out. Jordan Theodore, one of the best basketball players to come out of the city of Englewood. You never saw him hanging out.
Right.
Because when he was hanging out,
he was told to be in the house. Nah,
yeah, this ain't where you're supposed to be in.
What you doing here? I'm taking you home.
But then you got a guy like Sean Banks. Sean Banks is supposed to be, filthy rich, but people who should have been telling him, yo, this is not for you. You need to be in the gym, or you need to be in the house. You need to be in the books. And when kids get mixed in, after a certain point in time, it's hard to reel them back in.
Nah, you're right.
This is a part of why parents take their kids out of, the city, because once you get into the high school, you got to have the right people there to make sure that those kids are doing the right thing. You know, and when your parents are not in tune with the teachers, that becomes a problem, because now it's like, well, you don't know who's up there, so I don't trust that my child will be doing what he's supposed to do in these classrooms. But I've had teachers who I've skipped class for a week, and she made it her business to come find me one day.
Wow. Yeah, I had that too, Miss Hooks.
So
shout out to Miss Hooks, and she saved a lot of us, because she was definitely one of those. She came to my door, like, he didn't come to school in 3 days.
Yeah, and that's what we need. We need people who are going to advocate for the kids, make sure they're doing the right things. My first college experience was, a teacher telling me, hey, we going on a college visit overnight. Take this to your mother, have her sign it. I don't even know where we going, but she wanted me to experience that.
Right.
And, that was one of the best experiences I had. We went to 2 HBU schools. It was Maryland Eastern Shore and Morgan State.
Right.
And that was really like my first glimpse of college.
Okay.
And from there, I was like, wow, I definitely want to make sure I'm able to go to college. And then, my senior year comes around and schools are, oh, yeah, we don't know if we can offer you a scholarship yet. She was like, yo, go to these meetings. It's for EOF, free money. So now on the back end, I never got offered a scholarship. It was just financial aid packages. And then I got this black man telling me, hey, you come here, school's going to be free because you living in a single-parent household. Take advantage.
It was different. Basically, a lot of people just trying to push you to get into that direction, and the help was there. But why is that not going on now? Is it, you think it's the generation? I mean, I'm just be honest. We live in a different type of generation. We got different parents. Like, I come from old school parents, and my parents, when they went to them schools, I was shook, because I know my parents are gonna listen to these teachers.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be like, oh, ma, they talk. They just, I don't know what they talking about. No, what the fuck? Like, they not just making this up. You know what I mean? And to now it's like it's a little different. You know what I'm saying? It's I just feel like it's a lot different, because pride with parents, like you said, a lot of parents don't. Oh, I don't want you knowing what's going on in my household.
Yeah.
Trying to tell me what to do in my household.
But I think one of the biggest issues is the budget cuts.
Okay.
With the budget cuts, we're not getting too much of the tenured teachers like we used to.
Okay.
Like, I remember I had a teacher from Lincoln School all the way up to high school. It seemed like, every couple of years she was moving up. We don't got that no more. So it's like the rapport with the teachers and the kids, or the teachers and the parents, ain't the same as it was in the 90s. Because, you had teachers who worked in the Englewood school system for 30 years. So it's like, well, I went to school with your mother. I went to school with your brother. I went to school with your father. I know them very well. So it's now like outside of school, that same teacher's calling your mom like, hey, we was in class today. He was struggling with this a little bit. Y'all may want to, give him a little extra help with it.
Okay.
But now it's like you getting teachers in the school system for 1-2 years, and then they going somewhere else. And that's a part of the thing that's hurting us as a community, because we need those teachers who've been around since we was in pre-K,
right,
elementary school, middle school to high school, because they know you.
Do you feel like they are more, like they're the foundation for us kids? For the kids? Like, you've been there from basically, like you said, Lincoln to all the way to high school. Like, that's a foundation. Like, if you got all these people that's building this foundation to put this great, community together, you know what I mean? And we lacking that now from what you telling us. Like, yo, and that's bad. Yeah. So what do we need to do in the community to change these things? I'm gonna ask you that, man.
I think one of the things we need to do is really pay attention to who they voting into, these seats of position, because a lot of it is money. With the last mayor, he had people on payroll who hadn't been working in the city for a year, 2 years, but they still getting a check.
Wow.
So, I think that's something that went under the table. And then secondly, we need more people who know know the community.
Right.
You know, I was trying to get into the fire department, and they hired 12 guys. None of them were from the town. You know, none of them were us,
Right.
minority. So it's like, how are you hiring people to service the community when they don't know the community? And you got people here who've been in this community all their life, and they know the faces, they know the names. So it makes the relationship for, let's say, the police,
A lot
the
better.
community easier.
Right.
Now, you know, situations don't have to be as aggressive as some turned out to be.
Right,
You know?
because the officers know the community and the community know the officers, and they can say, "Oh, let me," you know what I mean, derail certain situations, man.
Yeah, and you know, certain situations they really do get ugly because it was a guy that I coached with. You know, he was running for a position with the Board of Ed, and they pretty much put all of his personal information out there because they want to keep certain people in these seats because you know there's definitely a system in play where keep certain communities.
And this is in Englewood.
Yeah, this is in Englewood.
Wow.
You know, believe it or not, Englewood generates a lot of money.
I believe that.
So you know, there's people who want to keep that money in certain people's pockets.
Right.
And the sad part is that you got people who grew up in Englewood that help these people keep that money in their pockets. And you know, a part of the problem is that, like I said earlier, we're not out there doing our job to make sure that we keep these people out. Because if we can weed out the bad, we can bring in the good. You know,
Right.
we can better the education systems. We can provide things for the kids to do. Because if you think about it, let's go back to 2000. You know, you had the Uptown League. You had Englewood Day. We don't have that stuff anymore. So what is there for the kids to do other than get in trouble?
Nothing. I mean, you know,
So
absolutely
now,
nothing.
you know, you got a child coming up right now, and they asking you, well, do you want your child to go to Englewood school system? There's nothing in the community for the child to do. The education is being talked about on a regular basis in a negative light. So what would you do?
I mean, it's definitely understandable. I mean, with those things staring you in the face and you not knowing the community, I'm going the opposite way. You know, but
So
I'm
now-
from the community, so I'm going to push my kids to stay in the community.
And that's the thing, like the people who've grown up in this community, they got to be more active. You know, you can't just show up for Black Lives Matter. You got to show up for, you know, your kids' education too.
Right.
Because when they have these town hall meetings and they talking about, you know, the education system that's going to be put into play, who's they're advocating to make sure that we get what we need.
I couldn't even tell you who was even in the building right now, and I'm just being honest. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's not really advertised too much to us.
Yeah.
Unless we got individuals that we know personally, like saying, like as yourself coming up here saying, yo, we need to go in the building. No one's never really came to me and said, hey, listen, this is such and such, this such and such. A lot of stuff that you're telling me right now, I didn't even know. So I'm just being honest because I was unaware. It's not like it's being pushed to me. It's not like it's being talked about in certain circles. So it's like, okay, we don't know. As far as the schooling, I understand that a little bit because I have two young men in school. So I am more hands-on with that. But as far as it going back to, like you said, being in those buildings, those meetings, I never even really thought about that, man.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
an important part of, you know, changing the mold of how things are set up. Because what they want to do with us, man, they want to keep us in the palm. You know, they don't want us to get those $150,000 jobs. They want us to get those $50,000 jobs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and then it's a shame too, because like I said before, you even got people who are from the town that know about these things, and they not doing their part to make sure that the kids are knowledgeable about it. And that's part of why I still coach, because you know I tell my kids all the time, like, yo, football might get you a 4-year scholarship, which actually isn't a 4-year scholarship. It's a 1-year binding agreement that has to be renewed every year.
Yep.
So, you know, it may get you a scholarship for 4 years, right? But what are you going to do with it? Why not go to school and study to be a doctor? Take that 4 years, 5 years of free education and work on being a doctor. You know, when I was a senior in high school, there was this guy named, I don't remember his name, but he was the number one player in New Jersey. He went to Florida State. Myron Rowe, there you go. He was the number one player in the state of New Jersey. He went to Florida State, started 3 years, He graduated in 3 years. He had an opportunity to go to Oxford University or into the NFL draft. He chose to go to Oxford University. Did 1 year there. He came back, chased his dream of playing in the NFL. Didn't work out. Now he's a doctor.
Right.
You know, and he's I believe, a heart surgeon. They average $250,000 a year.
Right, so he's really not missing too much of a beat by not playing in the NFL because he chose to chase another passion as well as his other passion. You know what I mean? He chose that education route.
Yeah.
But it was somebody in his ear telling him that too, though. I mean, at some point, somebody told him, like, yo, listen, the same thing you telling me, somebody told him.
And that's where the mentors come into play. You know, that's where the coaches come into play. Because the NFL, you know, if you come across enough guys who've played in the league, they'll tell you NFL stands for not for long.
Of course.
You know, so if you get an opportunity to get into the NFL and get a check, do something wise with it. You know, create a business. Invest it into something that's going to bring you money back. Because if you get a $10 million contract, you didn't really make $10 million. Because you still got to pay your taxes. You still got to pay your lawyers. You still got to pay your publicists, your agents. So how much money did you really get out of that
After
10
all that,
years?
right. People don't see all that or understand that.
And you getting 10 years, 3 years, 10 million. So you got 10 million, but you getting that within 3 years. You know, a lot of times your agent gonna front you. Here go 2 million. You got to pay that back.
Right.
On top of his percentage of what you got to pay him.
Exactly.
So now that 10 million turns to like 7.5. Now you got to pay your taxes.
In different states that you're playing at every week.
They vary.
They vary. The price is up and down. So
now it's like boom. You go from 7.5 to just say they take 2 million. Now you at 5. You done brought your mother a house, but you ain't paid it off. Now you got that mortgage.
You got
plus
the car
your
notes.
And then your homeboys want to hang out, so it's like you got to take care of them too. So now you blew all this money. By the time it get to your second year, that 10 million is like 600,000.
Now you're nervous. Now you're doing all types of backdoor shit to get some extra money now as well.
Now you done blew your knee out.
Mm.
What's your education background? Oh yeah, you know I went for such and such. Okay, well you know they get a salary of like 50,000 a year. And that's where, you know, having the right people around you from young to old come into place, because they'll tell you these things before anybody else will.
Right.
Because, you know, a lot of times, man, and I see it now, you know, kids get to these high school levels where they good players, and then all of a sudden all these people jumping on your bandwagon. And it's like, yeah, you know, I've been supporting you since you was, you know, this. Nah, you wasn't.
No.
You lying.
Stop.
But now that, you know, the name is growing, it's like, well, you know, I'm going to support you now. Hopefully this will benefit me later on, because everybody looking for a handout.
Of course.
You know, it's not people who genuinely looking to help you. So
it's only a few.
Yeah.
It's only a few, because at the end of the day, you one of those few, brother. You ain't looking for nothing. Your passion is just, you know, you just have a passion, bro. Like, it's a difference. It's a difference between passion and a paycheck, man.
I tell all my kids, if you ever make it to the NFL, just make sure I got season tickets. I just want to be able to pop up and come and go as I please. You know, give you a high five, tell you good game, see you next week.
Right. Right. And that's, you know, that's the sad part, man. You know what I mean? I just feel like there's no passion involved anymore.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was talking to somebody about, you know, recently, is, you know, trying to get more young men who came to the program back into the program. And then, you know, good thing we got Joey Hoyle at the high school. You know, he's from the city of Englewood, so it's like, if we can build a rec program that creates the foundation to tunnel these kids up to the high school, then it'll help the city, because then it'll bring more attention. Because, you know, we had a kid last year, he got recruited to go to Virginia Tech. We got another kid who's at Georgetown, full scholarship. We got another kid who's at Marist. You know, so it's like we get these kids into college, but y'all got to trust and believe in the process.
Right.
You know, so if we can do what we got to do with the rec and work hand in hand with the high school, we can rebuild, you know, Englewood football. Because I remember when I was a kid, you know, we had some of the biggest, toughest guys out there. Big Lloyd, Big Chuck,
Right.
Snake, who went to Rutgers. These guys were real football players. So we really got to kind of bring back that feeling of Englewood football, and it takes the community to do it.
That's true.
We got the C team game. They playing in the championship tonight, and it's like you promote, but how many people are going to actually show up and support them?
Where is it at? Let the people know where it's at tonight, man.
So the C team is going to be playing in the championship for our league tonight at 5 o'clock. It'll be at Fort Lee Middle School, which is 467 Stillwell Ave in Fort Lee, New Jersey. They're taking on Garfield. So now, that's another thing. When you go to these parochial schools, they're pulling our kids out and bringing them to their games. And you see the atmosphere at these games. Like, it's like a mini college experience.
It is. Facts.
But most of these kids come from inner cities. So now imagine if we can create these environments
in our city.
Now, why am I going to a parochial school for this experience when I can create it right here?
Right down in Winton White Stadium.
So I think it's a lot that needs to be done, but it's not impossible.
Right. And I think the first step is, having someone such as yourself at the forefront. And I appreciate you even speaking on it today, because you definitely gave me some jewels on some things I wasn't aware of with our community, with the school, with the system, with the athletic department. Because I think about it, I'm sitting here like really sitting back thinking, we never had a recreation center in Englewood.
Never.
Like, we never had we had that little rec center, that was it. We never had a somewhere to go in the summertime, in the winter, where it was open all year round. Okay, you might have open gym at the middle school on Tuesday, and we piled in there, but you don't have that every day that we can just walk through those doors. And that's crazy, man, because Teaneck has a rec, and they got a super stadium that looks crazy.
Yeah.
For their kids, and their kids are playing soccer and lacrosse and football, and that's heartbreaking a little bit. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest, because I didn't look into it. I didn't even see it on that type of level. You know what I mean? And I appreciate you sharing that, man, with us today, man. But on the flip side of things, man, Fulton the father, man, Fulton the husband, man, like, kids is looking, the family looks a beautiful family.
Appreciate that.
Beautiful family. It's all togetherness, you know what I'm saying? You, coming from your family, your family, what did you learn not to bring into your family, and what did you learn to bring into your family? Because it's things that I've learned from my father, or just in my household, that I pass on to my household now. And you find yourself sounding like your mother or your father, like, boy. And I'm like, damn, I sound just like my mother. And there's certain things like, you know what? This is a different time. I'm not going to bring that into the household.
Yeah, I think, one thing I learned, especially from my father, he was a very stern individual. He showed a lot of tough love. Was basically just holding you accountable. I hold my son accountable all the time. I make sure that he ain't getting babied by me, because a man has to show a boy how to be a man.
Right. And
I think that's a big issue with what we have now, because there's not a lot of men in our households today. We out here making babies, but we not sticking around to raise them. So, that's one thing that's important as far as my morals and values with my family, just making sure that I'm there, holding my kids accountable and showing them that, when I make a mistake, I hold myself accountable, but I get right back up and I get to what I got to get to make sure that y'all good. And with my mom, like, I watched my mother love my father until the day he died, and that was like, one of her ligaments. So it's like when he passed away, she felt like she passed away, and I watched her fall out of bed and really pull herself back up on certain days. And it was just like, I gotta make sure that, one, I'm around for my kids as well as my wife.
Right.
Health is very important. And I think me and you even talked about this, the way we cook. That's something that we do together that helps us bond, because you know how it is when you living with somebody, y'all married, y'all been together a certain amount of time, y'all gonna have y'all good days and y'all gonna have y'all bad days.
No, facts.
But you gotta create more good days, so when you have them bad days, you like, well, I ain't going nowhere. I don't care how mad you make me.
Right.
I can't get this type of environment. I can't get this type of vibe from nobody else. but
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
You know, and that was one thing I saw with my parents. Like they would go through whatever they would go through, but at the end of the day, you know, we back in one unit.
You know, that's dope too, man. Because I watched my father. Actually, I was dealing with something with my family the past week, and this is my mother, and my father. They're down south and they're together. And my mother, had a little situation, but I spoke to my dad. I'm like, yo, dad, you good? He's like, nah, I'm good. You just brush yourself off. You fall on your knees, you brush yourself off. That's my partner. I gotta make sure that I'm right here with her.
Yeah.
And it's funny. He just said that to me 2 days ago, and you're telling me the same thing today. You know what I mean? And those things are important in the household, man. And you started a young family too, man.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a certain age when we start, but the average family is not starting at that age. It's usually, yo, I'm here, I'm in the building, but now we ain't gonna get married. We'll live together. We'll play house. We'll do all that. But you said, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna raise a family, and it's a difference. Yo, I got family, but I got a family. It's a difference. You have a family, but you also are inside of a family. If you understand where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
and how that was, that's very intriguing at the age that you and your wife started the family on. Like, it's not too many couples who won't even go down that road, man, at that age. Man, he's still trying to live their best life.
Yeah.
Not saying that you're not living your best life now. Let's be clear. I don't want anybody. Oh, you're not living. Nah, everything is dope.
I live a good life.
You know what I'm saying?
But I think, I got two older brothers, and my middle brother, he put me onto a lot of stuff. So it was like when I was young, I was exposed to things I shouldn't have been exposed to. So I learned how to live life a little bit earlier than everybody else. And then my mom got sick at a certain age, so it was like I had to be more responsible to most kids my age.
Okay.
So it was like when I had my son, I already knew like major responsibilities. I was 20 with my own crib.
Okay.
So that was just part of my upbringing. But before I met my wife, it's like I did the different women. I did the enjoying myself, having parties, till it got to the point where it was kind of old. I see people now, they like 30, 30. I'm 35. But like at 26, 27, like I was already doing a lot of stuff that people were just now doing. So it's like when I got 30, it's like, all right, that's kind of old to me. Like I want to do something new. So when I met my wife, like, her big thing, she's been traveling since she was 5, 6 years old. Her parents sent her to Trinidad, by herself.
Wow.
So, meeting her and her family, that kind of opened my eyes to seeing the world. I've been to Paris, I've been to Trinidad, I've been to Aruba, I've been to Antigua.
And you took the kids.
Yeah, my my son really enjoyed swimming, and now we got him in swim class from our trip from Aruba. And then, just meeting my wife's father, like, he's a 100% man, God bless his soul, because he just recently passed away. But, I would see that man wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, work all day, come home at 10 o'clock, and his wife would make sure he had food. And then, boom, it's like, all right, well, we need this, or we going here, or we doing this. Oh, the bill's only $1,200? That ain't nothing. Even right before he died, like, he was trying to put me onto the electrical game, where he wanted to teach me and put me under his business. And then when the electrical exam came, he was going to submit my application to the board to apply for, the electrical license.
Wow.
So it's like just being around him, and then my uncle, who also has been a husband and father since I can remember. Those are just great examples. And like I said, it goes back to the guys who was coaching me from Little League. Coach Billy Lee, family guy. His son played football with me. We would see his daughters, his youngest son. He was a family guy. Coach Drakeford, lived right there in Parkview.
Right.
We would see him with his kids, his wife. Coach Barry, that's another guy. So it's like, in those times of growing up, like, we always had good examples around us. Coach Wiley, who worked for the city.
Right.
I remember he jumped off the garbage truck on me one day. Yo, you signed up for football.
Facts.
And it's like, yo, when you see
That's
these examples,
too.
you see these examples in your community, they rub off on you. So as I got older and I saw certain things, it was like, yeah, I kind of want to stray away from the selling drugs or the
it got played out for you.
But it don't
early.
play out for everybody.
Yeah, because I know some brothers right now that I'm 47. Some brothers is my age living their second childhood, man.
Yeah.
At my age, like literally, and I'm like, wow, that's what you get a kick off. You know what I mean? But you know, to each his own. You know what I mean? Everybody choose their own path. You know what I'm saying? But I guess paths are different when you got other people that's depending on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a lot to do with it because we do sometimes, you know, having those little ones right there coming home to every day. It's like, okay, there's no way I'm going to drop the ball on this ball. You know what I'm saying? Your thinking pattern is totally different, your outlook. Then having that spouse that's loving, supportive, caring, nurturing, all those things. Like, okay, why would I? Why should I? What else do I need when it's all right here, man? You know what I mean? That's a blessing that at your age, bro, that you even found that, man. Because a lot of brothers your age, honestly, ain't even trying to go that route, man. I know, I ain't gonna lie. When I was your age, I wasn't even thinking about none of that shit, bro. And I was already a father.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm being honest. You know, I'm just being real. Like, my mind wasn't, yo, let me get a family. You know, and these are the things that was installed in me from my parents. Like, how long you gonna keep just, but you was like, nah, I'm cool. You know what I mean? And that's dope. And shout out to your wife and her family and the support system that you have still to this day. Because I know it's strong, man. I know it's strong, man. My man, as we get ready to wrap this session up, man, you got anything you want to tell? Yo, please, first and foremost, let the people know the address for the game tonight.
Yeah, so the game will be held at Fort Lee Middle School. It's 467 Stillwell Ave in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Kickoff time will be 5 o'clock. Make sure you get there at like 4:30 though, because they don't have a lot of parking. And you know, just come out and support the kids, man. That's a big part of showing love and giving back to the community, is just making sure that they know that they love by the people from their community. And as far as, you know, talking about football life, you know, we gotta really, this is more so catered to the men. We really gotta get back out into the community and, you know, breathe air into these kids, man, and let them know that there's better options out there for them, because that's really what we lacking right now, you know, all over the world, is the men in the community doing the right things and setting the right example. You know, these young men, they follow
fast
some male, you know. And I had a father tell me this one time, and it stuck with me forever. He told me that, yo, I tell my son the same thing that you tell him, but he takes to it differently from you because it's not from me.
And that's a fact, and I believe that. And I tell my friends that all the time. My kids, sometimes they rather hear from somebody else because they feel like, yo, even me, I had that situation. So I get that. That's real shit. I could tell my son, and his basketball coaches told me that. And that's powerful. I guess you know what it is for me being a father and understand that sometimes they don't want to hear from us. And that's the truth. They don't want to hear from us because we just gonna continue to keep shoving it down their throats.
Yeah, it's because they look at you like dad, like, oh, that's just dad talking. But when they hear from somebody, they look more at like a mentor, a big brother. It's like, well, you know, he's saying the same thing my dad's saying, so maybe there is some truth to, you know, what he's saying.
Right.
And that's the thing why men got to come together, you know, and really, we got to show these kids how men are supposed to act. You know, it's too many men out here who have a situation with somebody, and instead of talking it out, we lead to other things. And I think that's one of the biggest issues, man. We got to get back to talking things out and put the weapons down. Secondly, you know, if it's really that big of an issue, then let's put our hands up, do what we got to do, and then come back and say, you know what, you're still my brother, I still love you.
Right.
You know, we hashed out what we need to hash out. We settled what we need to settle. Now it's time to get back to building our relationship and setting a prime example for these young men who are coming up behind us.
I agree with you 100%, man. I definitely do. Ladies and gentlemen, man, the father, the husband, the mentor, the legend. I'm going to call him the legend because, man, you just dropped some jewels on me today that I wasn't aware of. Yo, let's give a round of applause for our brother Fulton Lucas, man. I appreciate it, man. And yo, man, you know what it is, man. Part 2 is on the way, and I said that with a lot of respect because I'm putting something out there because I'm working on something. But bro, I need you back for this other project that I'm working on in our community with the youth. And yo, you know what it is, man. Roundtable Podcast sponsored by We Out TV, man. You know what it is. Get with us.
One more
We
thing
love
before
you,
I
man.
go.
Hold on, he got something else he want to drop on us.
Now that football season is over, I'm gonna be partnering up with NJ Fit Factory to get a personal training thing going for the youth athletes. You know, that's one thing that we need in our community. So if you got a kid in between the age of 6 to 15 and you want to make sure that they stay in shape, are active, work on their coordination, athleticism, strength, you know, come holler at me. We can work something out.
That's what it do. Appreciate you, bro.